From the Miami New Times. Coincidence? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez caught COVID after partying in Miami. I mean, that's the gist of the story. We saw the news over the past couple of weeks that AOC was seen hugging people, getting kissed by people, partying at a drag club. And this is coming from a person who has routinely ragged. Actually, you know what? Let me just pull up the tweet. We got this tweet from AOC herself, where she said 93.2% of Texans aren't fully vaccinated. Mind you, this is March 2nd. The state just endured one disaster worsened by selfishness and denial of basic science, and now conditions are being set for another. Repealing the mask mandate now endangers so many people, especially essential workers and the vulnerable. So perhaps her concern of the mask mandate was only because of limited vaccinations, and now she's changed her opinion? Sure, that's fine. But she's also criticized Ron DeSantis of Florida, which I would just say is wrong because she's choosing to go party in his state while criticizing him for the policies that allows her to go party in his state. And now she has COVID. So poetic justice or what? Hypocrisy?
Well, when you try to silence speech, when you weaponize compliance, and you disregard your own decrees that you complain about other people not following, you're not on the side of good. It's also important to note here that with this particular tweet on March of 21, that she, of course, is asserting that people will get hurt, that there will be some devastating consequences because of Texas moving away from mandates, moving away from top-down centralization of power, of force against the people who are living there. And the numbers don't lie. When you look at what happened in Texas after this, and you compare it to what happened in New York, there's a story there that, of course, is being hidden away from the general public. That's how I see it. And I don't wish anyone be sick. I don't think we should be celebrating anyone be sick. But this is the story that's happening right now that is deserved to at least be mentioned, in my opinion.
I think if I zoom out from my ego, I want her to be healthy. I want it to be easy, like a low symptom or no symptom illness, and be done with it and realize, okay, it's not that as bad as I thought it was going to be, kind of thing. That's what I want for the general system. I don't want to play hate and love with this girl, whatever. But
it's the policy, man.
Yeah.
It's if you're in New York, if you're a congressperson, if you're a governor, and you're defending or refusing to speak up in the face of vaccine mandates and mask mandates, and then you decide for my vacation I'm going to go to one of the places where they don't have these policies so I can go party. I mean, that is everything wrong with politics, in my opinion. I see conservatives or Republicans being like, I don't like mask mandates, I won't wear one, and then they don't. I'm like, well, that's what they said. I get it. AOC, who's like, the governor here can give Ron DeSantis some pointers and mask mandates are important, but I'm going to go party where the governor does the opposite. It's the hypocrisy I can't stand.
The single most valuable thing right now is the thing that's most singularly missing, and that's consistency. We're desperate for people. I don't even think it matters so much what they say. If it lines up with what they do in a fairly consistent way, that person right now is going to be both respected and probably in demand, regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on. I live in Northern California, and I wrote pretty pointedly when the whole French Laundry thing happened with Gavin Newsom. I just said, look, this is not a small thing. You remember he was out there and he's without a mask shortly after telling everybody they had to wear a mask, and didn't help that it was a super fancy schmancy restaurant and he was with all his buddies. It was just a bad look. But I just remember saying, listen, when it comes to politics, speaking only for myself, I'll forgive stupidity. I'll forgive people being wrong, and I'll forgive people changing their minds. But it's really hard to forgive a hypocrite.
Yeah. Mike, there was medical professionals from the government of California coming forward and saying, along with bureaucrats, every time you have a bite, you need to put on your mask afterwards. As they were telling people not to gather in large groups, they were shutting down restaurants all over California as he's going to have a dinner at one of the fanciest restaurants in the world.
Sure.
With a huge crowd. And then thankfully, because of citizen journalism, because of people caring about this story was able to get out there to the general public and show the hypocrisy, show just how hypocritical a lot of these people are that will ruin your life while living their best life, which is crazy.
I wonder if it's, for people who align themselves with like the Democratic establishment or who are Democratic activists, they overlook the Newsom stuff or the Whitmer, the Pelosi, or the Maxine Waters, or, the list goes on. I wonder if they overlook that because their attitude is the messaging is more important. It doesn't matter if a handful of people are flouting the rules and ignoring it, so long as they're telling everyone to follow the rules to keep us safe. And then I wonder if, for post-liberal, libertarian, conservative, whatever, their attitude is, are you being honest? Are you an honest politician? Which is rare, to be honest.
It depends how scared you are, right? If the populace is freaked out to an 8 or a 9, they'll absorb a level of hypocrisy that they won't when they're at a 5 or a 6 or a 4 or a 5. Now we're becoming, I've just noticed it in the last couple of weeks, we're becoming less scared. I just had it, got through it. My folks both have it. They've come through it. It's not now just a question of how many people do you know who have had it. It's we're starting to see, and you can chalk it up to Omicron or therapeutics or the therapeutic nature of the vaccines. Whatever it is, people seem to be having a much easier ride than we were.
Yeah.
And so as the fear level comes down, what happens now when you recall Nancy Pelosi walking into a salon to get her hair done when she had specifically told people that you're not allowed to do that? You feel differently now because you're not as afraid as you were. So there's a long tail, I think, on hypocrisy, and it's still spooling out as we speak.
I bet this is going to be like people that are starting to, it's dawning on them now, like now that they're calming down, they're going to see this, and it's going to be like reliving trauma for these people. So when we, or when anyone is going to approach them about like, hey, just so you know, don't rub their nose in it when people start coming around. Mm-hmm. Treat it like past trauma. Be kind and understanding. People went through a lot the last couple of years.
Yeah, I know a lot of people want to say, I told you so. But that's not always the best kind of approach, especially when it comes to someone coming out of a trauma-based fear state that was instituted by a lot of very powerful forces. The corporate media, the politicians, all took this situation and, let's be honest here, from my perspective, exploited it to the fullest extent that they could in a way that ratcheted up the numbers of cases, ratcheted up the number of deaths, that are now even in question by the government's own answers and explanations to what actually was going on here. CNN was talking about gangbusters for ratings as they were obsessing about the death counter on their corporate media broadcast that, of course, was celebrating that they were able to ratchet up those numbers and get more viewership because of that. And that is a sick mentality that deserves to be checked, and they need to be held responsible for it.
You know that meme, keep calm and X or whatever?
Yeah. Carry on. Keep calm and carry on. Yep.
Yeah. So I feel like the corporate press and many politicians like AOC were the ones doing the opposite. They were telling you not to keep calm. They were saying the end is nigh. Panic, panic.
Yeah, they still are. There was just an article I read maybe 2 weeks ago written by a doctor over at Johns Hopkins. I forget her name. It's not important, though. You can look it up. It's very specific, though. She's laying out the hellscape of January and February. And I've never read anything this dire. All right. All the hospitals will be full. All of the pharmacies will be closed. All of the shelves will be empty. Whoa. Please listen to me. Please listen to me. This is a doctor at Hopkins, right? Now we're January 10th today in real time, and people are looking around. And so what do we do? You're talking about being graceful, and I think that's great. And you're talking about we should understand, and I think that's great too. But look, there are consequences of living at DEFCON 5. Where's the DEFCON 1? What's the bad one?
One's the bad one, I'm pretty
sure. You
right?
can't live at 1, right? Maybe for 15 days, maybe for a while, but it starts to wear down, and you don't have to look too far back into history to see what happens when people get bored with being terrified. It happens. And it's got nothing to do with numbers or statistics. It's got nothing to do with facts or data. It has to do with the way we're wired. Remember in the Battle of Britain, right? During the Blitz, those people were bombed every day, and they went underground and they lived underground for a week, and then they started to stick their heads out. Bombs still falling.
Yep.
2 weeks later, they're opening shops. 3 weeks later, they're back in school. Bombs are still falling. The bombs never stop falling. But after a month and a half, it was just, look, this is bad. This is very, 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 very bad. But we're not going to spend the rest of our lives in that state.
There's videos out of Syria during the Civil War in places like Aleppo where the buildings are completely wiped out. There's no sign of civilization, but people, except for the people that are carrying food and working. And you're wondering, you can hear gunshots go off in the distance, but these people say, It's either I just wither and die in a hole, or I get out to getting food and living even amidst this conflict.
I think they needed the panic, and they wouldn't be able to exploit this entire situation if there wasn't a panic. And it's important to understand they created it in many important circumstances. With that fear comes anxiety, comes depression, comes a lot of psychological disorders. If we look at the mental health of America, it has steadily declined over the years, and dramatically when COVID came to the world, because politicians were exploiting that. And this kind of sick, deprived behavior, I think, is perfectly represented by this latest LA Times column that literally is titled, "Mocking Anti-Vaxxers' Deaths is Ghoulish, Yes, but Necessary."
Right.
That is crazy. Imagine working at a newspaper, saying this out loud, and still exploiting it, when again the data should be questioned here and the facts still aren't figured out here. So the argument she's making here for it being necessary, it's such a complex web of just emotions that they throw at you, so you don't look at this calmly, rationally, because if you did, you wouldn't be going along with any of this nonsense.
Think about the fact that article got past an editor, probably several editors. And so the thing that scares me is that there's somebody in the newsroom who says, they enjoy mocking, or people should be mocking those who die. And then everyone around them being like, yeah, we agree with this. And so much so we want to publish this. That says to me that we're really separated in this country from
celebrating death.
It's even being neutral about it, because they may not agree, but they're obviously not disagreeing because they put it forward. And being neutral towards evil is just as bad as being evil in my opinion.
There you go, right? Good Germans.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Order followers.
It wasn't the Nazi party. It was all the ones who sat by. But look, beside that, it's just, I forgot what I was going to say. Doggone, it was going to be good too.
Oh, man.
It was going to be a good one. It was going to be a good one. It was going to, as a journalist, right? I mean, somewhere along the line, with an article like the one you just quoted and with the thing I was just talking about before, shouldn't somebody be asking the question, what is persuasive? Is it persuasive, for instance, to point to the people who, for whatever reason, haven't been vaccinated and identify them as the proximate cause of all of the problems? Now, you can have the conversation about whether they are or whether they're not, but from an advocacy standpoint, from a journalistic standpoint, do those people find it persuasive to be put into a box of deplorables?
We've had a couple people on the show we've disagreed with, and typically I'll ask them, why don't you, flies with honey, why don't you try and advocate and be nice and empathize? It doesn't seem like people want to do it, right? So this article saying we should mock those who die from COVID, obviously it's not persuasive. Obviously it's antagonistic, but they're doing it not because they actually want to be persuasive, at least in my view. They're doing it because I think it is a tribal rallying cry that will generate traffic among their side, make them feel good. You're right. You've got someone who's a really nasty person on Facebook. They see the article and they go, "That's right. I should be a jerk on Facebook."
But
Makes
this
them feel good.
But this is another aspect of it. These are talking points that are issued not just by LA Times reporters, quote, end quote, but these are also similar comments expressed by world leaders like Justin Trudeau, that when talking about the unvaccinated said, do we tolerate these people? We have Rothschild, the former banker, Emmanuel Macron, who literally came on the world stage and said, these people shouldn't be considered citizens for what they're doing because they're irresponsible for their health. These are arguments and talking points that have ratcheted up at this level that are extremely insane, extremely draconian, from very powerful institutions, very powerful people that, in my understanding, are very dangerous, especially when you look at them with these specific comments with a context in history.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.